Story 1. This was the incident where I finally confronted my sister like never before. I got a random knock at my door, and it was my sister, the one I had been avoiding contact with for a while now. My parents previously acted as if she had no way to get out here, let alone the nerve to show up. Well, they were wrong. I was shocked to see her, but kept my cool at first. She came to collect her mail from us. We had been holding on to it for months, but eventually it was thrown away. I told her I would go over to our parents' house and check if there was anything left for her. Just as I started walking, she asked if I still had her cat and if she could take him back. I told her that I did have the cat, but I was not giving him back. That was when she lost her temper. I raised my arm to stop her and calmly said that I was not going to argue. As I turned around, I noticed the cat darting away from her. That cat is usually friendly with almost everyone, but the moment he saw her, he took off like a shot. He absolutely did not want to go with her. It was as if he knew exactly what kind of environment she would take him back to. My sister angrily got back into her car and started yelling horrible things about me while I tried to walk away. That was when I lost my patience and shouted at her to leave. She acted as if she didn't hear me, so I simply pointed toward the road. That set her off, and she screamed, "You want me to leave?" I yelled back again for her to get out, and she finally started driving away, shouting that she had lost everyone, that I was a terrible brother, and so on. She got outside the gate, then suddenly stopped and started backing up. I quickly closed the gate before she could come back in. She flipped out again, screaming, "I hope Mom was worth it to you?" She constantly tries to blame everything on our mother. Then she threatened to report me for keeping her cat. But I highly doubt she would actually do that. She has too many issues. She wouldn't want authorities poking around. I shouted back that the moment she truly lost me was when she told me our mother was going to suffer for crossing her. Then I confronted her about not buying winter clothes for her kids. She tried to claim that was after her ex got custody of them, but I knew better. It was before that. Her youngest son once came to me in freezing weather, wearing only a t-shirt and shorts. He didn't even own a coat. I spent $200 buying warm clothes for her kids from thrift stores, and on top of that, she still owes me $800 for unpaid power bills and small loans. She made a confused face when I brought up the money she had probably forgotten, but she quickly switched back to yelling. We kept arguing through the gate as she continued ranting about how I had chosen Mom over her, so I brought up her biological father, the man who was barely there for her throughout her childhood. My sister had spent most of her younger years saying he would come for her, but he never did. She put the idea of this man on a pedestal for her entire life. Yet she had to go searching for him in her 30s. He never paid child support, cheated on our mother, became addicted to drugs, went to prison, and then ran off to Arizona once he got out. The last time he saw her, she was 2 years old, and then he disappeared for 30 years. She screamed that he was a good person. I yelled back that he was far from it. Then I told her that she was always looking for someone to blame, and that she needed a villain in her life just to function. By some miracle, our parents showed up in their car at that moment. Our mother tried to calm her down, and I stepped away for a couple of minutes. During that time, the cat I had saved from my sister appeared and started following me closely, meowing more than usual. He does not typically act like that. He was clearly very stressed. I picked him up and brought him inside my house for safety. Then, I returned to see if our mother had managed to settle my sister down. But she was still hysterical, ranting about me. I ended up shouting back at her through the gate again. After I walked away for the second time, my mother told me my sister had called me a foul name right before speeding off. I was furious, but getting all of that off my chest was incredibly cathartic. She had made my life miserable for nearly my entire existence. That Monday, I immediately took the cat to the vet to get him microchipped and registered under my name. Now, if my sister ever tries to take him, I can legally prove that he belongs to me, and I wouldn't hesitate to call the authorities if she attempted it. A few days later, my sister messaged me from a new number out of the blue. The way she was texting was strange, childish, and detached, as if she was struggling to put a sentence together. She somehow got the idea that our mother had my phone number now, which was odd. Her messages were so vague that I didn't even recognize it was her at first. She started by saying she used to be part of my family, then referred to herself as my ex-sister. She also began calling our mother by her first name instead of acknowledging her as family. I wasn't rude to her in response, I was genuinely confused about what she was trying to say. Since I couldn't make sense of it, I simply went next door to my parents' house and handed my phone to my mother. My mother didn't say anything unkind to her over text. She even reassured her that she would never stop loving her. However, she did express disappointment in the way my sister had behaved when she showed up at the hospital. Not too long ago, my mother had been hospitalized for a week due to a severe vitamin deficiency caused by a combination of medications and a stomach condition. My sister visited her at 1 in the morning, but did nothing except talk about herself and play the victim while our mother lay there sick. My sister's response to our mother's message was short, but not exactly rude. My mother then simply told her that she only reached out to let her know that our older stepbrother had another child and didn't mean to upset her. My sister responded that she wasn't upset and that she wouldn't allow our mother or her family to upset her anymore. This was ironic, considering she had been the one causing us all enormous stress, as my past experiences with her clearly demonstrated. She then sent another message saying, "Unconditional love," and called the idea a joke. After that, she told our mother to eat well and mentioned that her grandchildren needed her, speaking as though those kids were no longer her responsibility. It's clear that my sister blames us for her losing everything, even though it was entirely her own doing. She acts like we should feel sorry for her, but after years of mistreatment, we had simply reached our limit. We just couldn't take it anymore. Story 2. All my life, my parents have been strict. I've always been known as the friend who can't stay out past 8 p.m. or can't do certain things unless my parents personally know one of my friends well, as if they were good friends with my parents. When I was under 18, my parents wouldn't let me hang out with a friend unless they came over to my house first. My parents had to meet them to determine what kind of person they were. They were also particularly strict about money. When I was 18, I went to my senior prom. While buying my dress, my dad gave me a $100 bill and told me to get my prom dress after school one day. He specifically instructed me to keep the money in my car, but instead, I kept it zipped up in my backpack all day. When I told him, he lost his temper and threatened to take away my money, saying I was irresponsible. He argued that someone could have stolen it or that I could have lost it. I thought I was being responsible with money. I felt more secure keeping the $100 on me rather than leaving it in my car, but I guess I should have listened to him. I remember crying at the lunch table while he scolded me over the phone, and my friends were very concerned. He told me that since I didn't follow his specific instructions, I didn't deserve to go to prom or even carry money. I almost lost that privilege, but I did end up going, although he complained about it the entire night. He told me he preferred a daughter who was loyal and obedient, and that day I had done the opposite. I wasn't a bad student at all. Teachers admired me, and I tutored other students. I had a 3.85 GPA. Despite that, my parents still treated me like I was an irresponsible teenager who didn't know anything. It's frustrating to try to prove to your parents that you're a responsible adult, only to make a small mistake that causes them to be deeply disappointed in you. Fast forward to now. I'm 20 years old, attending community college, still living with my parents, and not much has changed. I have a part-time job now, but my parents remain strict. I cannot stay out past 11 p.m. unless I have a valid reason. I still cannot hang out with certain friends or go to specific places if they believe those people are bad influences or if they think the location is a waste of time or too far to travel. They also believe my life revolves around theirs. Any plans I make affect their schedule, and most of their plans, in my opinion, aren't even that important. They keep themselves busy with small house projects like yard work, car maintenance, or cleaning. They always expect my help, And when I tell them I have a test to study for or an assignment to complete, they say I should have been more proactive and finished my work earlier. A few days ago, I started a new relationship with a wonderful guy. He treats me well, is incredibly kind and respectful, and is willing to deal with my strict parents. However, I'm afraid our relationship won't last because of how restrictive my parents are. When I told my mom that I have a boyfriend, she was disappointed and gave me a lecture about responsibility and not ruining my life. She insisted that I should wait until I'm 25 before dating anyone. However, she did wish me the best and expressed hope for the relationship, despite her disapproval. As for my dad, I haven't even considered telling him about my relationship yet because I know he will have a major issue with it. If I mention that I'm dating someone, he will immediately scold me and force me to break up with him. If not that, he will insist on meeting him first, judging whether he's suitable for me, only to then tell me to end the relationship anyway because he believes I'm too young. According to him, I should wait until I'm 35 before dating because I'm not mature enough in my 20s to make such decisions. I don't want to keep my boyfriend a secret from my dad, but I also don't want him to disown me or look down on me for being in a relationship. Now that I'm 20, I just want my parents to stay out of my personal business, at least to some extent. They always want to know what I'm doing, where I am, and who I'm with. I just want to enjoy myself without them constantly interfering. Even when I don't get out of class or work on time, they call me repeatedly until I answer, demanding to know why I didn't inform them. I suppose I should be grateful that they care, but I feel like there's a fine line between being protective and being overbearing. At this point, their strictness is stunting my growth rather than helping me. I always have them in the back of my mind whenever I make plans or consider doing something on my own. I feel like I've become the person they want me to be, not the person I truly want to be. Story 3. So a little backstory. My mom owns a catering company, and I like to come along when possible and help out. Before COVID, of course. I have so many stories about Kyles and Karens, and unfortunately, some end with no repercussions. So I was able to scourge an old dusty memory of a Karen military wife version and her entitlement. Cast. Entitled Military Wife, Me, Mom, and the Pregnant Host. We were catering a gender reveal party for the pregnant host. My grandma and I baked a nice girl cake, decorated the venue with pink and blue balloons, banners, etc., and were able to get a pretty nice food table. However, even when we were done, the party hadn't started yet, because the pregnant host still needed to get dressed or whatever. I don't remember. But the entitled military wife came early, like half an hour early. The pregnant host was slightly disgruntled, but it's not like she could kick her out. The pregnant host told my mom and I that we shouldn't mention any husbands or anything because she was touchy about it. We were cool with this. It must be hard to be a single mom, and we didn't want to make it harder for her. So we checked around, making sure the venue was nice and pretty, and my mom told me to make sure the food wasn't going to get cold, otherwise we'd have to heat it up. And we only had 15 minutes before the party started by that time. I went to the table and saw Karen just standing there. She looked uncomfortable and kept on patting her Karen brand handbag, but I ignored it. However, I noticed some of the pastries were gone, and the vegetable pies were also low. Karen seemed to get more and more uncomfortable the more I inspected the table. It wasn't long before I clicked 2 and 2 together and asked her about it. Me, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Karen, annoyed, yes. Me, some of the food on this table seemed to be taken. Have you seen anyone take any food from here? She was looking like she's gonna scream. No. What's that hanging out of your purse? Needless to say, she was not happy. She immediately began to shriek like a toddler, saying that I was trying to hurt her and mocking her for being a military wife. The pregnant host came and did not look happy. I told my story and Karen told hers, which was absolute nonsense by the way. When I snatched her purse and showed the pregnant host the pastries and pies, she told Karen to get lost. Karen began to scream. She's a single mom, blah blah blah, but she still got kicked out. The rest of the party went well, and I did not have to deal with any more Karens for the rest of the day. Story 4. We have a nosy neighbor who is the polite type of Karen. And let me tell you, that type is the most annoying one. That's why we try our best to avoid her as much as possible. So a couple of years ago, when I was 14 at the time, my parents went to visit our aunt who happens to live in a different town. So they are going to be out of town for a couple of days, leaving me and my older sister in the house for the weekend. My sister told my parents that she wanted to have a party at that time with her friends in the house. My parents thought it's a play Mario Kart with your friend type of party and agreed. The night my parents left, people started coming to our house while I was upstairs playing Minecraft with my friends or something. That party wasn't that big, but it was big enough to hear the noises across the street, and the booze you can smell from a mile away. It's 8-9 p.m. and the music is playing out loud and the doorbell rings. Sister, seeing Karen through the peephole, she guesses that our beloved neighbor came to complain about the loud music. But when she opens the door and surprise, Kevin Jr. is behind Karen. He was the typical spoiled neighbor's kid and is 2 years younger than me. Sister worried that Karen would tell our parents about the ongoing party filled with booze, so she greets Karen nicely. "Hello, Mrs. Karen." Karen, with a glued smile on her face, says, "Hi there, sweetie. It seems that you are having fun tonight." My sister, trying to resolve the problem as quickly as possible, asks, "Yeah, we are. Are you here because of the loud music? We'll turn it down if you want to." Karen, still smiling, says, "You know the music is a little loud, but I came here asking if my son, Kevin Jr., can join you." My sister, not knowing what to say about her party filled with drunk seniors, tells Karen that the party is for older kids and that she may not want little Timmy dancing in here. Karen shrugs her off and tells her, "My sweet boy is more mature for his age, and he would get along with you and your friends." Sister, trying to hint at what may be in the party, says, "Listen, Mrs. Karen, I don't doubt your son's intelligence, but we may be doing things you don't want him near. He could stay with my sibling if he wants to." Let me tell you, if Karen actually agreed, I would have preferred eating crap than staying 10 minutes with this cringe generator of a kid. The first and last time he came to our house, he broke my Nintendo Switch and stole a Star Wars figure from my room. Karen said, "Well, my son wants to do whatever you're doing here. Besides, what are you actually doing here? Drugs?" Sister gave up and told Karen, "No, Karen, we don't want your son in here. Please just go home and we will turn the music down." Karen's smile faded away and her tone turned serious and yelled, "Where is your mother? Let me talk to her." While everything is happening, Kevin Jr. is standing behind, waiting for his mom to find him something to fill his boredom, and trust me, he does not care about what is happening here. Sister, shocked, told Karen that our parents weren't home and said, "You really don't care that your son would join a party filled with drunk people? Oh, so you are drinking. How could I have not guessed the smell coming out of your mouth? I bet you are doing drugs too." Sister gets angry too and tells Karen, "What do you want now?" "We are not doing drugs," Karen, infuriated, says. "Don't you dare speak to me with that tone. Take my son or I will call the police on you." My sister, scared as heck, gathers her courage and tells Karen to get lost and shuts the door in her face. She quickly cleans the house, tells her friends to go, puts the alcohol in the cabinets, and some were so drunk that it was like living hell in 20 minutes. And while cleaning the house, Karen jumps out of nowhere at the window, phone in hand, trying to take a video of my sister with a smug face, but sister gets to spot her and pulls the curtains quickly. The police then arrive thinking minors are having a party while snorting some cocaine, check the house, and find nothing suspicious other than my sister's booze-filled breath. Apparently, Karen moved the alcohol out of the entire picture and only called the cops like they're growing crack in the party, so they couldn't connect my sister's alcohol consumption with Karen's accusation and the party. And fortunately, Karen's video turns out to be useless from her video shooting skills and actually backfired and caused her to be charged with invading my sister's privacy. Story 5. After the last time I stood up to my mother when she threatened to discipline me, She seemed to get more wary that if she did try to attack me, it'd end very badly for her, so she mostly just yelled at me. She didn't lay a finger on me again until the events of wanting my house years later. I thought nothing of it and just continued with my usual routine of school and odd jobs. My 15th birthday was right around the corner, and my dad presented me with an engine kit for my bike to help me get around town. He said I was better off saving for a car than a scooter, and this would do in the meantime. I ended up agreeing with his logic and kept saving for a car. A few days later, though, I found a pamphlet for a military school while sweeping grass off the back patio after mowing the lawn. It was on the ground and under a chair near where my mom liked to sit and drink wine. I had a bad feeling she was cooking up some kind of crazy scheme, so I waited till my dad got home to show him what I'd found. He was pretty mad, but didn't jump to conclusions, so he went to see my mom with the pamphlet and asked her about it. "Dad, honey, what's this?" Mom goes white at the sight of the pamphlet. "It's nothing. I've never seen it before." "Really? Because if you were planning on trying to send Craggle to military school, you know I wouldn't allow it." That's when Mom broke her facade and yelled, "He needs to learn some discipline. He locks his door all the time, and I can't even hit him anymore because he's too big. This is the only way I have left to punish him for being a disobedient brat." "Dad, Craggle did nothing wrong when he stood up to you because of your stupid favoritism. If anything, our daughter is the brat because of you and the way you spoil her and let her get away with stealing from her brother. And as far as I'm concerned, this discussion about sending Craggle to military school is over. And if you try to send him, then so help me, I'll bring the hammer down on you any way I can." Well, I guess this whole family is just going to take away what little power I have left in this house then. If I have nothing, I may as well be nothing. You and I both know you'd rather keel over than be nothing. Stop being so dramatic that Craggle is growing up and is his own man now with his own money. Mom then just stormed out of the room. The next morning before school, I saw her furiously trying to stuff something into the kitchen trash bin. I waited for her to leave for work and dug out what she was trying to hide. It was an application for the military school filled out entirely in her handwriting. It required the signature of both parents or legal guardians on it, and there were 2 signatures on the paper. I recognized Mom's, but the other looked like a pitiful attempt at trying to replicate Dad's. He prided himself on his smooth and complex signature, and there's no way my mom could copy it without it looking like fraud. I guess she realized that after she was confronted and gave up on trying to send me away. I kept the papers and showed them to my dad later. He was mad, but figured she'd done that already and let it go. But he filed the papers in his office, just in case. A few more months later, it got out that my mother was having an affair with an old ex-boyfriend of hers from high school. That was the last straw for my dad, and he filed for divorce. And I went to live with him months later after he bought another house. He sped up the divorce pretty quickly by pulling out the military school papers that my mom had forged his signature on. And it wasn't just that. He also had evidence she forged his signature on at least 1 credit card application. And one other thing I don't recall. That made Mom fear being arrested for fraud, and they went through court pretty fast because she agreed to most of his terms. Mom got the house because Dad didn't want it. But she also demanded alimony and child support because my sister unsurprisingly chose to stay living with her. The judge awarded my mom the child support and a minimum amount of alimony for a decade of monthly payments. The alimony basically just covered my sister's allowance anyway. Mom was pretty mad about that and threatened to take him back to court. But he held those forged signatures over her head for years to make her back down. On the day I left to live in Dad's new house, my sister stuck out her tongue at me and smugly said Mommy told her that she was a princess and the more deserving sibling. And that's the reason why I was leaving the house. I just shook my head and told her to think what she wants because I didn't care anymore. Then walked out the door finally feeling free as a bird. My relationship with my sister when she came to visit Dad's house once a week only got worse after that, until finally we stopped talking altogether for years, and I didn't really care to visit Mom's house. She pretty much gutted my old room for a home office anyway. Story 6. So as background info, me and 3 friends of mine were on a holiday trip on an island in our home country and just got back today, so this story is really recent. All of us are 16 years old and it's our first time traveling on our own. Now to the story. This morning, we got up early to film some scenes on the beach for a little movie project for our rather unsuccessful YouTube channel. After we were done doing the ground shots, I was getting my drone, Mavic 2 Pro, so not that big, ready, and noticed the usual skeptical eyes on me, which I'm used to now. Problem was that due to higher winds, I had to take off behind a little dune and not on the beach itself like I did the days before, to avoid heavy winds during takeoff and landing, which results in more people watching me and me having to fly over the little beach, to the bridge we wanted to film. So I took off and got away from the beach and crowd with my drone as fast as possible. After that, I immediately noticed someone approaching me from behind, and it really was the typical Karen, just like you imagine her. I thought of Karens more like a myth, but she really was one. Like haircut, style, everything matched a Karen, so she just starts yelling at me and wants to see my permit to fly here in a really aggressive tone. I started to explain that I actually don't need a permit to fly at this place, which she must have overheard in her screaming. She then yelled, "OMG, did you just record us? Are you going to upload this to the internet? You are not allowed to fly film here." Me, still trying to stay calm, showed her my, at that moment, empty gallery of the drone, but just got. "You can show me anything you want. Land right now, or I will call the police." Drone was still hovering over the sea 150 m away. At this point, I think I just should have shown her my drone ID, which is required in the EU to impress her. Now my friends joined and one of them, also drone pilot, explained to her the law, to which she just responded, "No, this is illegal here, I call the police now." Then a second, male, Karen also joined her and started screaming at us as well. Not her husband, he was just watching us 50 m away. Although we really wanted to have that shot, we also didn't want to get in trouble with the police either, so I decided to land, to save some battery. Both Karens are now starting to calm down a tiny bit, but not wanting to see my permits and laws either. So we got the drone back in its case and thought everything was over now. Not really satisfied because we actually were in the right, but as it turns out it wasn't over yet. As my friends left to film a few shots on the ground, I stayed at the beach to look after our stuff. I got my laptop out to review some footage and upload a low-quality preview to Google Photos, which obviously required Wi-Fi, so I moved near to the dunes where Wi-Fi was available, not seeing Karen standing 40 m away. So I worked on the computer and walked and turned around while doing that, because I was bored. After a minute doing so, Karen approaches me again, really furious and screaming at me, "Now it's over. You filmed me with that thing. Nobody uses a laptop on a beach. I'll call the police now. You stay where you are." Me, really confused because my laptop only has one camera covered by a sticker, said, "Am I even allowed to explain myself?" But just kidding, "You can explain to the police whatever you want," in screaming as response. So here I was, not knowing what to do, emotional and a bit confused, sitting alone on the beach besides all our equipment waiting for the police. 5 minutes later, my friends came back, and after explaining to them what happened, they were just as confused as I was. Another 10 minutes later, one young and one older officer arrived, dealing with the furious lady and not listening to our story, which made it seem like they were supporting the Karen. Because the public really doesn't like drones, I thought the officers would try to give us a bill or something. After she screamed at the officers the same way she screamed at us, really intelligent, huh? The officers came to us and heard our side of the story. They were really nice and were completely on our side and even asked for our YouTube name and subscribed. So they just wanted to see the drone and my ID. Then told us that it actually is legal, but if we fly again, they will have a call in 10 minutes again, which will just cost their time. They then left after this conversation with us. Best part was when the officers, on their way out, told the Karen to leave the beach because she was causing too much trouble. Most satisfying moment in life is seeing her face at this moment. So Karen left really mad, trying hard to avoid eye contact with us. So after we were done filming, we met her again, sitting angry in front of the entrance of the beach, and wished her a wonderful day, which blew her face for the second time.